So in this bonus, I want to talk to you about blood sugar because it's a really crucial element in maintaining consistent energy levels during the day. Now, your body is a really fine-tuned engine and it likes to keep your blood sugar levels within a really narrow margin, much in the same way that it controls your temperature to within about 1 degree. It doesn't matter how hot or how cold it gets outside. So if you have something very fast releasing for breakfast, it actually puts too much sugar into the bloodstream. And too much sugar is toxic, which is why diabetics have so many problems. So the body releases insulin to grab that sugar, take it out of the bloodstream and into the cells where we convert it into energy. But we actually only need a little bit at a time, and any excess gets stored, and it gets stored as fat, and a type of fat that's really hard to shift. And if your body's had to release a lot of insulin in response to a lot of sugar, the levels can come plummeting down afterwards. So you can soon end up on this roller coaster that we hear so much about. And really what I want you to remember is that these peaks up here are essentially fat storing episodes. And these troughs down here are when you're going to get tired, irritable, hungry, and I don't know if you suffer from food cravings at all, but this is when they're likely to strike. So the good news is, if we keep you in this zone here, we're helping to keep you in a fat burning zone and minimise those cravings, which just make it so much easier to follow a good, healthy diet. Now, there are 3 main ways that we keep your blood sugar levels balanced. And the first one, and the most important one to get right initially, is the timings of your meals. We have the equivalent of about 3 teaspoons of sugar in our bloodstream, and this energy gets used up in about 3 to 5 hours. So for most people it works well to have your 3 main meals and actually plan for a snack mid-morning and mid-afternoon, just to keep things nice and consistent. Now, if your daily schedule is such that you can have your breakfast and lunch and dinner within the same hour window every day, that's actually the most effective thing to do. But it's better to plan for that snack, because if you go long stretches without eating, say you skip your lunch or you didn't have your breakfast, your body has to maintain the sugar in the bloodstream, and it'll do that by drawing on your adrenals. And your adrenals are your stress response. And when you crank up that stress response, I kind of think it's like screaming your car around in 3rd gear instead of cruising around in 5th gear. Because that whole response uses up a lot of nutrients. It zaps through your B vitamins, your vitamin C, your magnesium. And because you're not eating, you're not putting those nutrients back into the body. So if you do that over a long period of time, you can actually get very, very depleted. And that whole stress response releases cortisol. And cortisol is a fat storing hormone. So really try and be mindful about the timings of your meals. Now, the second thing that's really important is to make sure that your meals are properly balanced. So it's always good to have some element of protein, because protein helps you to feel fuller for longer. In actual fact, it's best if all of your meals have some carbohydrates, some protein and some fats, because they're the macronutrients, or the big nutrients that your body is kind of, designed to search and look out for and kind of tick that box. So any diet where you're missing out a whole section, so you're missing out your fats or you're missing out all of your carbohydrates, really isn't the way to go, because you're just going to have cravings and you're going to get depleted. So the third thing that's really important is to control the sugars in the diet. So we all know the obvious forms of sugar that we need to avoid, but I'm talking about the sugars that are found in your carbohydrates. Now, your carbohydrates are your fruits and your vegetables and your grains, and some are much better for your blood sugar control than others. Now, the way that we used to calculate this was with something called the glycaemic index. And the glycaemic index is a score from 0 to 100. With 100 being equivalent to pure sugar, which doesn't need digesting, it just goes straight into the bloodstream. So it's always deemed that anything over 75 was very high GI and best avoided. But actually this measurement has been around for probably about 25 years now. So science has moved on, and there's actually a much better way of understanding what are the best carbohydrates. And that's with something called the GL, or the glycemic load. And just to explain the difference, if I was to take a slice of watermelon and a bar of chocolate, they've both got a similar glycaemic index score of 75, so both very high GI. But actually with the watermelon, as the name implies, it's nearly all water, only contains a little bit of sugar, whereas the chocolate is nearly all sugar. So if we were to give it a glycaemic load, the slice of watermelon is 4 GLs and the bar of chocolate is 25 GLs. So that's a huge difference. And that's because the GL takes into account not only how fast the sugar releases, which is what this bit's about, but how much of that food is sugar to begin with. And it's that level of fine tuning that's really, really helpful. Now, this whole system has been really taken on board by a nutritionist called Patrick Holford. So if you're interested in knowing more about it, have a look on Amazon. All of his GL books are really good. I especially like his GL cookbook, and it'll just explain a little bit more about it.